people anywhere happier than Danny Smith right now. For the various chewing gum manufacturers, good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and/or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Smith was available to reporters, as were several coordinators and coaches and everybody. That's an annual thing with the Steelers when the bye week comes around. I've always enjoyed that because it's good to hear from other voices, not just Mike Tomlin's. Good to hear other perspectives, other praise, other criticism, whatever it is. Just helps to add to your understanding. And right now, there can't be a subject that anyone would want to understand more than whatever happens to be the commonality in the excellence, and that's not an overassessment, of these special teams. In fact, it's hard to know where even to start in lauding these special teams because you could get through 7 or 8 things and say, oh yeah, I forgot. They've blocked 3 kicks, 2 field goals by Isaiah Loudermilk and Dean Lowry, and a punt by Jeremiah Moon. But it's probably fairest to start with Chris Boswell, who's the absolute MVP of the group. He is tied for the NFL lead with 23 field goals. He's had 1 miss all season. He's hit all 16 of his extra points. Yes, as he'll tell you, that takes a team effort, especially whenever he loses his holder mid-game and still has to put the winner through the posts. He's been just everything you expect him to be, and maybe this is the year, especially with Justin Tucker finally showing some strong signs of mortality in Baltimore, that everyone will finally recognize Boswell as being at least among the elite, but possibly the best in the business. The Steelers had appeared to have punting set with Cam Johnston, and of course he was the punter/holder who went down in that game I just referenced. But then along comes Corliss Waitman, and wow, his statistics aren't going to be what Johnston's were. His statistics are middle of the pack in the NFL, but the base statistics for punting, to be blunt here, aren't all that helpful. He's got a 48.8 average kick. That's 16th. Again, right there in the middle of the pack. But he has also put 14 punts inside the 20, usually doing a lot better than just inside the 20. His directional punting has been unbelievable, and there's no stat for that. That's stuff that the coaches track, that's stuff that the coaches value, and that's stuff that, sure, it does hold down the net. It holds down the return if you put it where your special teams coach wants it. Waitman's been exceptional at that. And then, of course, you go to, Calvin Austin. Who else would you go to in this conversation after that? 73-yard punt return for a touchdown. He's also got a 12.9 average on punt returns that ranks 7th in the NFL and underscores why a lot of people, including Cal himself, I should add, have been expecting one of these days was going to get taken to the house, and there it went. Kickoffs, I'm going to be honest with you, I couldn't care less because these new dynamic kickoffs, do you see anything actually happening in these things? The few times it comes out of the end zone, it makes it to within a yard or two where they would have been if they had just taken the knee there. Bottom line, the Steelers aren't any better or any worse than anybody else at it because there's not much difference to be had. Total package between consistent production, consistent splash, field-flipping, game-changing splash, and then after a tough early start as it related to penalties, these special teams have been the best I've ever seen in covering the Steelers, and that goes back to 1997. So didn't mean to date myself there, but there it is. And you want to know something else that's cool about this? The guys who partake in special teams, who are usually the the humble ones, the quiet ones, they kind of keep their heads in their locker stalls while the stars are doing interviews and so forth. They are feeling it. It used to be just Rodney Williams you could hear, but now it's almost all of them. And they're even, as Peyton Wilson was telling me the other night, and he obviously is part of special teams as well, it's made the whole atmosphere in that locker room feel as unified, and I'm going to get you another extreme here, as any Steelers team that I've covered in that specific regard. They feel good about themselves. They feel good about their role in this team being 6-2, and they should. This is what Smith had to say on that yesterday.
It's fun, and it's fun for those guys, man. It's nice to see those guys, come in the building happy. I've been on teams that, 8 games in, you're struggling, and these meetings ain't no fun, man. I walk in that meeting, I can't wait to get in that meeting, and we got guys early in the meeting. You deal with these guys. When they show up early for a meeting, things are going good.
You know what else is cool about all this? In addition to the fact that Smith is just one of the better people you'll ever encounter in this business, it's that this freaks out the opponents. This forces the other team's head coach to spend way more time fretting over special teams than he'd care to. I've seen it when it's the other way around. I've seen Mike Tomlin's behavior in a week where he knows he's facing an opponent that can burn him on special teams. It becomes a big, big deal. And you'd better believe it'll be one next week in Landover. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from AJ, who asks, DK, what's the deal? Roman Wilson, I know he's on IR now, but I got the impression that the coaching staff isn't impressed with his preparation and work ethic. Is he going to contribute to this team this year, ever? I've taken probably more J1Qs on Wilson than I have on a lot of players who actually play. And I actually understand why. He was supposed to be at least part of, or potentially part of, the solution for depth at wide receiver. He was supposed to be the reason that you didn't have to sell out to get a Brandon Ayuk or a Devontae Adams or whoever. And instead, right away in training camp, he went down with an injury. He ended up missing a lot of time. The figurative moving train moved away from him. And by the time he looked like he was ready to come back and be all the way healthy, the moving train concept kept him from barely getting onto the field, which he did one time, 5 snaps. I'm not positive, but I think that might have been in Las Vegas. And then he got hurt again, and now he's on IR. So the easy answer to your question, AJ, is that he's obviously not going to be part of anything for a while, nor should he be. But from there, it's really tough to get information. And here's what I mean when I say that. If, for example, the coaching staff were to feel that Wilson is not maintaining himself well, that he's not at an NFL fitness level, that he's not conditioning himself to prevent soft tissue injuries, then yeah, to one of the points that you brought up, they're going to be disappointed. If they feel, and there have been some hints thrown to this effect, that he's not all the way in tune with the offense, and they'd be running the risk of having him go out onto the field and not run the right direction or not understand whenever checks are being made at the line, then they'd have every right to be disappointed for a different reason, that being that he isn't preparing himself mentally the way he should, even through injuries. I've told the story on this show many times about how hard Calvin Austin worked as a rookie when he missed the entire year. He was determined to go into year 2 being treated as and called a second-year player. To his credit, not only did he do that, but he passed along that wisdom to Corey Trice, who, by the way, should be coming back soon as well. That's the way you're supposed to handle that. Now, is Wilson guilty of this? I don't know that definitively. I'm laying out, just so that we're clear here, possibilities based on the small amount of information that's been actually put forth, almost all of it from Mike Tomlin himself. I know this much. I know Tomlin's intonation when he's disappointed. I know the verbiage that he chooses when he's disappointed. And both of those apply to Wilson. And if I had to project anything right now, especially after seeing how Russell Wilson has gone about utilizing not just Cal, but also Van Jefferson, whose 2 games with Russ, incidentally, have shown him to be a basically NFL average WR2, and I say that in a complimentary way, then it's more than possible that the moving train has left the station for good in 2024. I appreciate the question, believe it or not, even though it keeps coming. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow. And for crying out loud, make sure you tune in to the Double Shot Show this afternoon as well. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern.